talk to you a little bit about a few more aids that would help you in orthodontics. Let me get this little dot going so I can draw on here. These aren't the only things that can help you, but these are just a few of the things that we just in general tried to teach everybody that we had in lectures so that it would aid them in doing their orthodontics in some way or another. And most of them are very easy to pick up, but we'll get into some wire bending in this. So let's get on with it and try to make it a little shorter than those other three lectures on aids here. The first thing out of the bag was this wax pattern. I can't tell you how relieved it was to learn about the wax pattern, how you can take a sheet of pure beeswax. Now we just won't, you can order it from this company here. It's just plain beeswax. It's somewhere out in California, of course, and the sheets are 3 inches by 5 inches, and they're 1/16 of an inch thick, and you can break them half in two. They're something like that, and you can break them half in two, and you can build 2 arch wires out of 1 sheet of this beeswax. And those bees really worked a lot to produce that much wax. But let's go on in here and we'll show you how to do this. You think, how on earth you're going to take a piece of beeswax and bend an arch wire? And you can do this by taking an impression of the teeth into this beeswax. And you mark the center, and you make your arch wire to fit on there and mark everywhere. You can put any kind of bend, loop, whatever you want to in there, and take it from the wax and put it back and put it in the mouth, and it'll fit in the mouth. That really helps out in building these rectangular arch wires. Okay, here is a piece of this beeswax that's 3 by 5. And so we cut it half in two, and so we got a 3 by 2.5, I guess, that would work out. And this is just pure beeswax. And the reason we like beeswax is just dead soft, and you can press it down. Now, if you look in here carefully, I don't know whether you can see it or not, but there's a typodot underneath here. And I've laid this wax on top of this typodot that's here. And I'm going to come and press on this wax over the teeth, and you can see the brackets come up through the indentation in there, and you mark the center and get your arch wire. You mark the center of it, put it in the center of this, and your arch wire will go on back like this, and then you can make any loop you want to, and as you go back you use the tail end of the arch wire. That's to be a 7-inch piece of arch wire, and it makes almost any arch that you want, and especially rectangular wire. We sometimes don't make our round wire on this type of beeswax, so always make the rectangular wire on that. Now let's look at it again, and there it is. We've set it out and we pushed it down, and you can see the brackets of the teeth, and if you're careful you can see the center line, and you go back over here and see where the molars are, right like that. And we pushed that down a little better than that. It's harder to get this off of a typodont than it is in somebody's mouth, but you can take this and put it in somebody's mouth and just press it and then ease it out, but don't flatten it out now. You just leave it just like it is and lay your arch wire right inside the bracket. In other words, if the bracket is going right there, you just put the arch wire right in that area, mark the center of it. Let's see if we got a little better picture of it here. That's a little better, and we have marked where the we're going to apparently put something in this area right here, where it's between the bicuspid and the molar, starting back in that area. So now do not flatten it, just leave it just like it is. Lay it up there, and you put your arch wire in. Let me see, I need to make a bunch of pictures that are. We take arch wire, you can buy it by the stick, and it doesn't have any torque in it. We can put torque in it if we want to, and we have a torquing term that we can, I've shown you that earlier, and you can run, say this would be about an 017 arch wire, or what we call 1725, and that means that the bracket slot right here would be 17 thousandths and then 25 thousandths in depth, and the wire actually the slot is 18 by 25, and so you got a thousandths of clearance in between this up here, so the wire fits in there pretty good, but it's got a little play in it. You can work with it. Now if you want to add torque to something, you can put torque in there, but say normally we wouldn't. Let's say we're going to mark the center of this, and we mark that on there just like we did that, and we wouldn't torque this and say to the central, the lateral, and the cuspid, and we'd stop the torquing over here, the central, lateral, and the cuspid, and hold it there, and then we would torque the arch wire at the back end like that, whatever we need in it. And I usually take a piece of wire and bend the tail end of it up, and then I bend it over like that. Now there's more force in the torque that you put in this wire. Like, I can't really show this too good. This thing kicks up like that. It's really got a lot of power. It has more power in the torque than it has in the width. Now, if you make the arch wire a lot wider and go in, but the torque will overdo the actual lateral shape of the arch wire itself. So we don't mess with it. We just go ahead and put it in there and torque it so that we have this buccal root torque in this portion of the wire. From the we start at the cuspid. Here's the first molar, second, two bicuspids, and here would be your cuspid. So we would bring the torque, start it here, and then use progressive torque back to the back of it. And you can bend the tail end of the wire up like this, and you can see just how much torque you've got in it. So then we go in and put that in there, so as we expand this arch, it'll carry the roots and the crown together out to the buccal, especially if you've got somebody's got a narrow palatal that is dropped inside the upper arch, where the upper is dropped inside the lower arch because of the tongue being down in this part for a mouth breather. That's a problem. But let's get back to what we're talking about here. Let me erase all that, and we'll show this again. Now, if I want to put a cuspid impedance, I come right as the wire comes there and bend out a little bit and come back and make a cuspid impedance that kind of comes along on the bicuspids. And then in here we would put these omegas, where you come back like that and you bend this omega in the wire and you lean it forward, and the omega is kind of tilted in this fashion, and it's out to the side a little bit in there, so it fits in this molar deal. Now, you have a excess wire that goes on back here, and when you make these certain bends like this, it uses the back end of this arch wire up, and then when you get through, you put it in there, then you can cut the rest of it off and smooth it up. Now this would have to be, of course, reshaped a little bit to go in that portion right there. Now, you can buy this wax. I would hate to have to rob the beehive to get it, but anyway, they sell it pretty reasonable, and I'm sure they're still selling this type of beeswax, and you can get it, and you can buy the wire and all these other things and put together. You can learn how to build your own arch wires, and you make just what you want to do in there. So let me get on down the line now. Now here it is again. We've marked the space right just between the distal of the second bicuspid bracket. We put a little mark in there. All right. I think in this particular arch wire that we're going to form here, we're going to make an intruding arch out of it. In other words, you come around like this to this part, then you bend it down and you circle around like that, and now you come down this way with it, and you do the same thing over here. Go down, make it go around, and when you come back up here, you change the arch wire down. That's on that's flat. You have to think now in third dimension here to feel that out. And we try to, you put that little mark right there on this as a Tweed loop forming plier. It's the best one I know of to get hold of to make loops out. This little piece of metal fits in there, and you have a little lock screw that locks it down in place. And I've never broken one of those little metals, but we don't use it on anything but small arch wires. Don't get any big daddy wire and try to bend on it. You have to use a young plier to do that. Okay, I'm going to put that in that groove on the Tweed loop forming plier. Now, you've got, we're going to use this. It has 3 little sizes. They all come out level at the bottom, but they're like here, and the next one would be up here, and the next one would be something up here, but they all have the same bottom to them. So the omega round would be up above on all of these when you come in. But we just make it on the second one. That makes a neat little curve. Now, if you mash this thing down in here, these 2 ends are going to go up. You see, it bends it in there. And that's about one of the only bends we make with a plier. We do most of it with our fingers. All right. I put it in there and clamp it down hard, and I take my thumb and bend this end up and start around with it. And then you go all the way around. Now we change positions on the plier, and we're going to clamp the other side of it, and we're still going to bring this all the way around, and we come up here and bend it out in that fashion to activate it. Now, if you haven't bent wire, don't be afraid of learning how to do it. You can make you can make springs and things that will do virtually anything you want to do to the teeth, and move them at any age, and you can move teeth out here and the bone follows them. Kids have been doing that for years yet. We cut the bone out because there's no teeth up there. That's ridiculous. You just put a little pressure on if you're moving a whole group of teeth, they'll all move out and the bone will go with them. And if you're taking one tooth and trying to move it through there, you might be able to push it through the bone. But if you're taking the group and move them, the whole bone structure, the alveolar bone goes with them. The basal bone has to shift to support them, and over a period of time it will reform in that shape to hold that up in the most efficient way. It's marvelous how the body has made like that. Now let's look at that as we bend it down a little further. I'm coming around, I'm going to go all the way to here, and then we'll bend this thing and activate it, which the activation we're going to use in it. Alright, we've gone all the way around now, and we'll roll this plier around where this part of the plier will be over here, like such, and now I'm going to bend that over that and activate it. Maybe I can show that on this next picture here. Alright, there we are. This is around on the side. Now we're going to bend that down and activate it. And this wire is going over here. And you're going to make the same thing over on this side of the mouth too, see. Some people are going to look at that and just, oh God, I won't be able to bend the wire to make the teeth move like I want them. But now that's made. And there it is close up. And we can activate it here, or you can activate it here and have the loop go down if you want to. But it's better, I think, to maybe let the two ends operate, and then this is would be your motor tube it fits out of, and it's going to activate, and you're going to go in and try to intrude teeth with that wire. Now when I make it down here, and when I raise it up here and hook it to the teeth, then that tightens that spring, and all loops ought to be where you put them under pressure to do the work that you want them to do. You tighten this up, and that tightens it, and this wants to go down real bad. Now anything that you push down, there'll be the same force going up. Just remember that. So the tooth has to rise. Now it'll kind of tilt forward since you're out. In other words, you'd be out in front of the on the side of the tooth with this wire. When you come in, you have a tube on the tooth that go in here. Let me go get on down to that, and I'll get you a little bit confused on that. But the best way to do that is to get you some good wires, a wire and pliers and a good light, and sit down at home where you can be quiet and think about it, and then just make different arch wires, and just make them until you know how to do it real good. Now you'll get assistants that can make these things after they've learned how to do it. They can turn them out so quick. You know, I've gone with them to teach dentists how to bend arch wires, and you'd be surprised that the dental schools don't teach them enough how to really bend the arch wires. And so that's something you really need to learn. Now here is this loop. We come in here, we come in at one plane level here, we go around, and you notice this came over to the side, and then we went out here. So this loop would come down here, and it would make this circle, and it would, you bend it down, and now you come around like this, and over here, and if you look down on the top of this circle will be to the side maybe I can show that in a minute. It'll move it out in this direction. Just the width of this wire this will be out to the buckle, and this will be into the buckle, right there. Now if you want it to go the same, when you put the loop in there at an angle, and then it'll come off in the same angle, and the loop will be kind of like this, and it's coming off, and it'll be in the same plane as the other part. Pardon me. And you're getting old, you can't help doing some of this coughing and stuff like that. Now there we are with that loop out like that. And that's got a tremendous kick to it. And you hook that up. So we make one of these on both sides, and I put them back on this deal and mark where I'm going to make it, you see. And I want this out to the side, to fit in my motor, so sometimes I make the twist go out further and just leave it out there, and that fits into the motor bracket and also into the bicuspid as you work on that. This doesn't have to be in those brackets, but the stuff out here does have to be in to open a deep bite. And I'm not telling you, you can't get a bite that's so deep you can't open it. And it can't be at any age you want to, as long as the teeth are not ankylosed. If they're ankylosed, break them loose, and you can still move them in there. And all this Tommy mess about being too old to get it, that's just some excuse for not doing it. So we need to start working on adults. There are tons of orthodontics that's going untreated. Charge, if it's going to be a difficult case, charge them what it costs to do regular anything. I mean, you don't just pick up somebody come in and say, how much do you fill teeth for? And you say, well, it's such $100. They say, well, I got 15 cavities in here. You don't do them for $100. I mean, charge for what you do a fair price, and if people treated for it and they come in and they want it done, then you learn to do it. Go and look at some of these cases we have. I mean, we slide the teeth together, we upright them, close up the spaces, and then save the gobs of money, simply because we didn't have to do implants and bridges and crowns and all that in there. So learn to bend the wire, and you can do things for people that you wouldn't believe unless you learned how and knew what people did like that. So let's learn this. Just get aside and learn it. So this is activated now. So if we got a set of teeth coming in like this, and we got a molar tooth back in here, and we put a tube in it, and we would insert this in there. This would go into the molar tube right here. We bend that off or something and fit back here. We got right outside the tube. We've activated it from this back section right here. So your loop would be going down, and then this wire would go down like this and come around and come up on the motor on the other side, and it would be over the teeth, of course, and you have to bring it up and hook it to these teeth. And this intruding arch right here will level darn near anybody you can put it on. You just leave them. You saw that simple little wire that I had where I discovered what made it go. I put this on this young man, and he just left town. And 6 months later, he had his teeth down here, and 6 months later, he came in because he couldn't bite through a sandwich. And the upper and lower teeth were open like that, and the molars back here, they had all this weight on them and pressure on them, had very little change. Now they'll rear up a little bit and they'll chew on the mesial contact points on those molars, but that's an intruding wire right here that you're looking at. Now go home and learn how to bend that wire. That is not a real terrible difficult thing. Or I say go home, you're already at home. You just set this thing up, and if you don't see it, you can play it 1,000 times if you want to, and just keep on till you know what to do with it. Now, there we're looking at the typodont in this direction, and there is a bracket on the molar band, and we'll peel that thing off and just tie this down. And then in our brackets we have a slot for intruding wires and another tube here for the conventional wires, see right in here. So this little arch here is doing those 12 things I told you about in that number 4. There is it lowers the teeth, it rotates the teeth, it expands the arch, it constricts the arch, it puts torque in it to expand it, it takes torque out when you constrict an arch with it. You can open a gap, you can put spraying on here and open space for this tooth. It's just, you can do so much with this, and you can start this and you can put the intruding wire on top of that the first day. I tell you, by using 2 arch wires like this, you can level a deep bite while your person over there is trying to get this set up where you can get something heavy enough in there to level the bite. You can have it leveled and through with it before he gets going with it, if that's what he's using. And these little arch wires that real soft and go back and forth and set on there. They push down on these, they up on these and down on the others. This is the way to open a bite. It is by far, it can save you 2 or 3 months in your your treatment time and things there. Let's go now. All right, there it is on the typodont. Now when I pick this up and hook it in there, it's pushing down on these teeth. Now, if I don't want these teeth to flare, I've got to take the expansion out of it and tie this arch wire back so this cannot expand, and all of this going down will go straight down. Now your lower anterior teeth will be sitting in there a lot of times kind of like that, and you're out here on there pushing down on them, so you're out in front of this, so they're going to have a tendency to tip forward like that. But you tie this back and don't let this go forward. This will go down much. If you got some real problem in there, put reverse torque. In other words, where like that, flatten it out, put it in there, then it pushes the root this way as the pressure here pushes the root the other way, and you can sit there and put that tooth down into bone just like you want it, about how you regulate the torque in there and the pressure of the tooth going down. But I dare you, you can put this on any body and it will flatten the arch out quicker than anything that I know of to do there. I was working with this guy at the office, and he's looking for an easy way to get something done and not having to work. So he was putting these little arch wires that go around like that, in there. So they push down on this and down on this, and you can get something done, but you get it flat like it really should when you come in there with an intruding arch, or use 2 arch wires. And not only that, this is doing all these other things to these teeth as you go around. All this is taking place at one time. And so you can do orthodontics in a hurry for people. Now let's gold. Let's see here. That's the way it is on there. When it's hard for somebody to see when I pick this wire up and it's pushing down on these teeth. Then these molars are being pushed up with exactly the same force. It's pushing this down, pushes them up, but you're out in front of them, so they tend to cock the molar back as they push it up. But the occlusion hits these teeth and doesn't let them come up. They chew on them, and you can say here, these teeth will stay pretty well where they are, and these teeth will go from here down to here. And you look at that case and the birth of the intruding arch, and you can see what goes on there. Now we just come out to the front and tie it with some soft stainless steel wire. We wrap that wire around it, and you've got a piece of wire here and a piece of wire here, and you run this soft wire around it and you wrap it real tight, and it'll be a kind of an oval shape, like this, with the two wires in there. And if you cut this off and start to squeeze it down or push it, this oval will shift and go back where this point will be coming out and going back in this direction instead of out this toward the lip. And you can't move it back out there with a toothbrush. If it sticks back out there, boy, it'll eat your lip up, you see. So you want to make something, if you tie it like that, that's all it needs, is just about 3 places, and it'll carry this whole thing down. And the molar teeth will hardly move at all. And that's why this carry deal works. They've put class 2 elastics on there. And we've known that for years, but just didn't take advantage of it. Like whoever manufactures those made millions of dollars off of it. And it's been around. Tweed used it too, way back there. So let's see. It's tied on. Now we take the end of this and push on it, and you see it got the 2 wires together, and this will go on around, and it'll pop back, and the thing will be setting back like this with the 2 wires still in the same place. But this twist will never come back out of there. They can't catch it with a toothbrush or anything and get it to go back out in that direction. Now that's, if you get one patient with a lip eaten up with that wire, just knowing that will be worth your time to learn this. Now I'm going to shove that again, and there we push it, and it pops back. Now the twist in the wire is going this way instead of this way, and it's hard to get it back over here. And I've never had anybody get a toothbrush or anything to get it back over, and it'll hold that in place, just piggybacked on top of the other wire. Here, and you push on that little deal, and it'll go back